All right, guys, welcome back. Today we're going to do Geiger issue number 11 from Image Ghost Machine, covered by, what's his name again? Raymond Gay. All right, never heard of him, but looks great. Anyway, we're going to continue the story. It's about, Geiger, Tariq, that's his name, has a heart attack. Young Judge Joe helped him to jumpstart his heart, and now they are at the town of Lewiston, if I remember correctly, and we have Nate who wants to, plead for this man. He says, "Hey, can we come in?" And there is a woman, and she says, "You need to go somewhere else because she needs to protect her community." But then Nate introduces himself that he was once of the notorious nuclear knights, and that basically Tariq Geiger has changed his life, and now he's become one of the good guys, right? And he says that the green light in him makes him very, very sick. And he says, we need to find a cure before it kills him. Do you know Ash Arden? She looks at him, walks away. He says, "Hello, miss, hello," he screams. But then the big giant wooden door opens and they go in. And then we have a flashback where Tariq has probably a radiation cancer treatment because, And his wife says, "Hey, we should cancel the barbecue. We do it every year. This year is different, Tariq. It's the 4th of July, Trace. I'm not going to let the kids down," he says. Well, this is what, before the bomb fall, right? Check out the earlier issues. Tragic. So, and then this guy, he wants to break in. This is still a flashback, by the way, but not in the same time period. I believe this is years later. So this guy wants to get in because, food supplies, and then Tariq comes in with a vengeance and kills him. And the professor that saves his life says that he's a murderer. But Tariq defends that he's a scavenger. He's breaking into the shelter, Molotov. If you'd gotten inside, my wife and kids would be breathing this toxic air. He was a dead man the moment he ignored the signs I posted everywhere. He was terrified, Tariq, like all of us, spared by the bombs. I don't care about this fear. I will kill anyone who gets near my family. He says, "Show some mercy." But then he screams, when was the world shown me any mercy? When? He says, "The moment that I've saved you. I found you lost and glowing. The bombs, they poisoned your soul as much as your body. You're the one who helped build the bombs. Yes, so that makes me Dr. Frankenstein and you my monster." I love that analogy. So, we've seen more hints of Tariq losing his mind. And I knew he was a little bit unhinged, but he has a good side, but especially in this book, he is just losing it more and more and more. He's becoming unlikable. So he wakes up and he has a tube in his arm. And this woman says, "Don't pull it out. We administered DTPA." Now, I'm not trying to translate what's in here. Diethylene triamine pentacetate. I probably butchered that. But basically, it helps him reduce or, control or the radiation in his blood. Well, probably not control, but suppress it. And he says, "Who are you?" "Someone who knows what they're talking about." Well, she has the same clothes, right, as Tariq. So Nate comes in. He says, "Hey, the medicine works. How do you feel?" He says, "Where are we?" "In Lewistown." He says, "Where's Barney?" And so here's, becoming more aggressive. He says, "Where is Barney?" And she says, "Well, there are 10 stories topside because they are in a bunker below. And some kind of a missile silo. This is Miss Arden, Ashley Arden. She is the one that they were looking for, but they thought she was a he. And she was cured. Cured, says Tariq. Wearing that vest doesn't look cured. Where do you get those rods? So she explains that a man, probably the same that made a Russian, I'm guessing. Yes, and she calls him a dear friend, and his name was Pyotr Petrov. But then Tariq says Petrov's real name is Dr. Andrei Molotov. He was a nuclear scientist from Russia who defected to the US right before the war. That surprised her. I met him after the bombs dropped years ago. He gave you an alias to keep you from discovering his true identity and his involvement in the war. Where is he? He was murdered. And she couldn't do anything to protect it. And grew by a raiders called the Hillborn. Right? I assume you were changed like me. Altered by the radioactivity, your body collects and stores it until it can't. Now, this is an interesting part because I always wanted to know how he got not only his power, well, I know how he got his powers, but how it actually works, So it seems that the blood is, some kind of a catalyst here. And he says that the rod keeps it under control. But, Nate here said, well, this is wonderful. She's just like you. But he's getting angry again. You sent us halfway across the country on a wild goose chase, Nate. She's not cured. She is forever cursed, the same way I am. Now look at her rods. Her rods is different, more like modified, while the rods on his back looks more like, crude, version of what she has. Well, she has lights, looks more slick and refined. And she says, well, you're wrong. Boron rods or not, I have complete control over the poison inside us. So she says, I can teach you. Okay, that's interesting, right? But then we go outside and we see the robot, Junkyard Joe. The people recognize him from the newspaper. And they want to know where he comes from. But then he has a memory. And the memory shows, I believe it's creator. And he is holding a woman hostage. Now, I do not know. I have the books of Junkyard Joe. Still missing issue number 2. I don't know what it is. I cannot get it anywhere. So I haven't read the books, only issue number 1. And I believe there are 6 or 7 issues. I know he was in the Vietnam War, and that, spoiler, his platoon, was killed except for one guy. And I believe this is its creator. That's the only information that I have. But at the end of the book, and I'm going to show you a little bit later, there is some bio about Junkyard Joe. I can pause the video. You can check out who this guy is and what is involved with Junkyard Joe. So if you are interested in that. I think it's cool that we're going to show some bio about, people in general of this universe. Really cool. Anyway, so then he goes suddenly berserk and he runs past them and, punched this car into smithereens. But this car was not moving. It just was standing still. So, and then he sees his war veteran buddy. So maybe this circus is going crazy, but he's not well. And then we see Barney licking him. So with the zebra. So yeah, I find this a little bit strange. It seems that they feel sympathy for this robot, although the robot has no smell except, oil and gears and all that stuff. And thus, they can sense his sadness somehow. I wonder how that works, right? Because mostly animals are, feel safe through smell, right? If you have a dog, they almost smell you and lick you or, growl at you. But that shows how people will react to a person if they are good or not. So, yeah, and since he's a robot, I wonder how that works. Anyway, so Tariq is still yelling or being mad at Tariq. He says, we're done. You and I too. I was a fool to think you knew what you were talking about. So Ash says, you are not a very pleasant man, are you? That's part of the problem. So he wants to get out. He says, where's the elevator? But she says, hey, this DTPA isn't going to keep the poison at bay forever, Tariq. He just totally ignores that and wants to get out. She's not all too pleased about his behavior. So they're going outside. And then Ash says, hey, what happened? That thing just stood there just staring at us and then it snapped. It destroyed my truck. It almost run over my boy. It almost hurt a kid, Nate. I warned you about it. Why did you drag that thing with us? And he says, well, if Joe wants to kill us, he would have done it, right? And he saved your life, right? whatever that is, it lost control once and it will again. But what about you? When you will lose control again? And he says, goodbye, Nate. So, come, Barney, we're leaving. But Barney doesn't listen. So he yells at Barney, Barney, let's go. Now. And then the power builds up in his body again and it erupts. And people are shocked, even Barney, right? To look at his face. And then darkness. And then he wakes up. Well, and probably, I don't know, it's probably not sick bay. So Ash says, hey, it's becoming a routine. You made quite a crater up there. Hectic day for our time. You remember I told you the DTPA in your veins would only suppress the radiation for so long. He says, I'm not patient. So yeah, but you are not friendly either, or immortal. The light is going to kill you as it nearly did me, but I still offer you help. All you have to do is take it. I wonder if he does it, right? He's a stubborn man, yeah? You know, and maybe he needs to be taught a lesson, right? And maybe this is it, you know, getting a heart attack, his power out of control. You know, there is a danger, not only to him, but also the people around him. They easily could have, you know, put a bullet in him, but she still saves him and wants to offer her help, which is interesting. But then, this old man is looking for Unit Beta. You'll be back with me very, very soon. So, yeah, that leads us to the next issue, which is really cool. So, great stuff, great art. And this is the bio that I talked about. This guy's name is called The Custodian. You can read what happened in the 70s, where he created Unit Beta, also known as Junkyard Joe, how it all went down and, you know, what happened after that. So, pretty cool. So, yeah, I leave the video here, guys. Let me know in the comments what you think about it. Great. I think this is a great series. I think you should pick it up. But, hey, who am I? I'm just the guy that reads comics. See you next time. Bye-bye.